Today, we're taking a closer look at a financial tool that has completely reshaped the way we shop online: Buy Now, Pay Later. We're going to break down how it really works, look at its incredible growth, and explore the real impact it has on how we spend our money.
You've probably seen this choice at checkout, right? On the surface, splitting a bigger purchase into smaller, interest-free payments seems like the smarter move. But today, we're going to dig into what's actually happening behind that button and why it's more complex than it looks.
So just how big is this? Well, consider this number: $86 million. That's how many Americans are now using Buy Now, Pay Later services. We're talking about roughly 1 out of every 4 adults. So this isn't some niche product anymore. It's become a major part of how people pay for things.
This widespread adoption is the result of some truly explosive growth over a very short time. To really get a handle on the industry's trajectory, let's look at the numbers that tell the story of its expansion.
The growth here is, well, staggering. The U.S. market went from just $2 billion in 2019 to an estimated $107 billion in 2025, and it's projected to more than double again by 2031. That kind of rapid growth tells us there's a fundamental shift happening in our payment habits, and it means we really need to understand the business model that's driving it all.
So that brings us to the big question. If the main product is an interest-free loan, how did this become such a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry? Well, the way they make money is a little more complex than the ads might suggest. Let's break it down.
The big promise, of course, is that 0% interest. It's the main reason people use it. And for those simple pay-in-4 loans that you pay off on time, that's generally true. The reality, though, is that the business model really stands on 2 other major pillars: fees from consumers and high-interest financing for longer-term loans. A huge chunk of their revenue comes from fees. For instance, a single late payment can trigger a fee of up to $8 or even 25% of what you originally bought. Now, that might not sound like a lot for one person, but when you apply that across millions and millions of transactions, it becomes a very substantial source of income.
To put this into perspective, just one of the major providers, Klarna, brought in $472 million in 2024 from what are often called junk fees. That includes things like late fees or fees to postpone a payment. A number that high shows you just how essential these fees are to the whole industry's bottom line.
And it's not just about the standard pay-in-4. For bigger purchases, many of these companies offer more traditional loans. And for those, the APR, the annual percentage rate, can be as high as 36%. That rate is right up there with many credit cards, and sometimes even higher, which is a direct contradiction to that interest-free image.
But the financial model is really only half the story. The other, arguably more important part, is behavioral. The success of Buy Now, Pay Later is deeply tied to consumer psychology. So let's look at the mechanisms that actually influence our spending decisions.
At the heart of it is this concept known as the pain of paying. It's that little bit of discomfort we all feel when we actually part with our money. What these services do so well is reduce that friction. By breaking a $200 purchase down to a $50 payment, it just feels easier and less significant, making it much easier to click buy.
And you can see this playing out in the real world. Think about it. Why are stores willing to pay higher fees to these companies? We're talking 4 to 6%, compared to about 2.5% for credit cards. It's because offering this option increases their sales by an average of 27%. It proves that when the upfront cost feels smaller, people simply buy more.
So what does this mean for you, the shopper? Well, it means it's incredibly easy to spend more than you intended. You might go online with a budget for an $80 pair of shoes, but when that's framed as 4 payments of $20, adding a few other things for another small installment just doesn't feel like a big deal. And suddenly that $80 purchase is now a $220 purchase, even though it only felt like a $50 decision at checkout.
And this is where that psychological effect can lead to a pattern of accumulating lots of small debts, which can have some really significant consequences. This is how a single, manageable purchase can start to evolve into a much more complicated financial picture.
Because each payment seems so small, it's really common for users to have several of these loans going at the same time. It's a practice known as loan stacking. As you can see here, nearly 2/3 of users are juggling payments for 2 or more loans at once, and almost a quarter are managing 3 or more.
What's also really telling is the shift in what people are buying. This all started as a tool for bigger occasional purchases, like a mattress or a laptop. But now, data shows a quarter of users have used it to buy groceries.
Using short-term debt for everyday necessities like food, well, that can be a real warning sign that a household's regular expenses are more than their income.
This can lead to what some analysts call a debt spiral, and it often follows a predictable pattern. It might start with one justified purchase. The experience is smooth, so you use it again. Pretty soon, multiple payment schedules are overlapping. Then, if money gets tight, you might use it for groceries just to free up cash. Eventually, all those small payments stack up, become hard to manage, and then you miss a payment and the fees start to kick in. The fact that these services are now being used for things like takeout meals has drawn some really sharp criticism from financial experts. When you hear language this strong, it's a clear signal that there's a growing concern about these tools being used in ways that don't really align with sound financial principles. Okay, so after all of that, what's the takeaway? Well, understanding how this system works is really the first step to using it consciously and responsibly. So, we'll finish up with some practical steps for staying in control.
Financial analysts recommend a few key practices. First, do a quick audit. Add up all your outstanding balances to see what your true total debt actually is. Second, maybe pause any new BNPL spending until the existing loans are paid off. Third, try to mentally treat all those scattered payments as one single monthly bill. Fourth, a simple rule. If you can't afford the full price right now, you can't afford the item. And finally, recognize that using these services for necessities is a clear red flag that it's time to review your budget.
In the end, it might all come down to this one simple question. Just ask yourself, if you had to pay the full price, in cash, right this second, would you still buy it? It's a powerful question that cuts right through all the psychology of installment payments. It reframes the decision around the total cost, and it puts you back in control of your financial choices.